Let her go. Right now.
You didn't answer me for 6 weeks, and now you want to protect me? I called you every single day for 6 weeks.
I never got one message. Someone made sure of that. You did this to my mother. Now you're doing it to us.
I did it because it kept her alive.
Gravel bit into Erica Palmer's palms as two men in dark suits pulled her toward the edge of the driveway. Above her, the Cho family mansion glowed gold with gala lights, string quartets drifting out through open terrace doors. Guests in furs and diamonds slowed their cars just to watch. "Let go of me," Erica said, her voice steady even as her knees scraped stone. "I have every right to be here." "Not anymore, you don't," the taller guard said, tightening his grip. Erica's bag slipped from her shoulder. It hit the ground and burst open, lipstick, keys, a folded hospital printout skidding across the gravel. She lunged for it, but a black car had already turned into the drive, headlights sweeping across her face. The car stopped hard. A man stepped out before the driver could open his door. Tall, dark coat, eyes that hadn't looked this alive in 6 weeks. Jaewon Cho. He looked at Erica first, at the guard's hands still on her arms, at the guests filming with their phones raised like torches, and then his gaze dropped to the ground between them, to the small folded paper glowing under the porch lights. An ultrasound scan. His jaw tightened. "Let her go," he said, and the entire driveway went silent. Erica straightened her coat with shaking hands. "You're 6 weeks too late, Jaewon." Nobody moved. Not the guards. Not the guests. Not the woman standing at the top of the marble steps, watching everything unravel with perfectly composed eyes. Grace Cho, the woman who had arranged this exact moment. Grace descended the steps, elegant in ivory silk, her voice pitched for the crowd. "Jaewon, I did not want you to see this. This woman has been harassing the estate for weeks, claiming things that cannot be proven. Security was well within its right. She's pregnant, Grace." Jaewon picked the scan up off the gravel, holding it like something breakable. "So she says." Grace's smile didn't move. "Convenient timing, wouldn't you agree? Right as the Song family arrives for our announcement dinner." Whispers moved through the crowd like wind through dry grass. Erica felt every eye on her, felt the old humiliation she'd sworn she would never let anyone hand her again. The same humiliation her mother wore for 30 years, waiting on a man who never turned around. She lifted her chin. "I never asked you to save me tonight, Jaewon." Her voice cracked but didn't break. "I asked you to believe me. 6 weeks ago. And every single week after that. I never got one call," Jaewon said quietly. "I called you every day." For one long second they simply looked at each other, two people realizing at exactly the same moment that something between them had been stolen, not broken. If that gravel scene made your heart drop, subscribe and like now, and tell us where you're watching from. Because Jaewon just picked up something that changes everything. The guards released her, unsure now who was actually in charge. Erica stepped back, gathering what she could from the mess on the ground, aware of one thing missing from it. A small yellowed envelope she'd carried in the inside pocket of her coat for months, ever since she pried it loose from behind a water-damaged wall panel on the mansion's 3rd floor during the restoration. She had never told anyone she'd found it. She still didn't fully understand what it meant, only that the handwriting on the front, Jaewon's mother's handwriting, had made her hands shake the first time she read it. She hadn't brought it tonight. Some part of her still believed it wasn't hers to use. Not yet. Jaewon followed Erica across the lawn, away from the cameras, his voice low and urgent. "Where have you been living? Are you seeing a doctor? Why didn't anyone tell me you'd come by the estate?" "I did more than come by," Erica said. "I called your private line. I emailed your assistant. I sent a letter to this house 4 weeks ago." She stopped walking and turned to face him fully. "Somebody made sure none of it reached you." Behind them, Grace was already moving guests toward the ballroom, smoothing the story with practiced ease. "A misunderstanding, nothing more, please enjoy the champagne." But her eyes cut once, sharply, toward Tobias Sue, the family's longtime head of security, standing near the garage with his hands folded and his face unreadable. Sue had driven this family for 31 years. He had also, quietly, kept every visitor log the main office claimed did not exist. Jaewon caught the look. He didn't understand it yet. But he would. Erica pulled her coat tighter against the cold and walked toward the gate without waiting for anyone's permission. She had learned a long time ago that dignity was the one thing nobody could drag out of you, even when they dragged everything else. That night, Jaewon appeared at Erica's apartment above the small restoration workshop she rented in Queens, with dust still clinging to the doorframe from a project she'd started the week he left for Seoul. She almost didn't let him in. "You could have called the moment you landed," she said. "I tried. Grace said you'd asked the family not to contact you. She said you needed space." His voice was tight, disbelieving of his own memory now. "She said you'd been seen with someone else." Erica let out a short, humorless laugh. "I have been pregnant, alone, and terrified for 6 weeks, Jaewon. There was no one else. There was barely me some days. I would have come home the same day if I had known. Would you? Or would you have done exactly what you did tonight? Stood there while your aunt decided what was true?" The question landed harder than she meant it to. Jaewon didn't answer right away. And his silence told her more than any defense could have. "My father used to say the family comes before the heart," he finally said. "Grace has run this house that way since my mother died. I never questioned it, because questioning it never cost me anything before." "It's costing you now," Erica said quietly, one hand resting over the small, still private curve of her stomach. "It's costing both of us." He looked at her hand. Something in his controlled expression finally cracked. "Then let me fix it," he said. "Properly this time. Not tonight. Properly. Quick question. If protecting someone meant deciding what truth they're allowed to hear, is that love or control? Like this video and drop your answer below." Took 4 days. Tobias Sue met Jaewon in the estate's old garage office, away from the cameras Grace monitored from her private study, and slid a folder across the desk without a word. Inside were printouts from the estate's landline system, 6 weeks of call logs, every one of Erica's numbers rerouted through a second line installed in Grace's private office and never once forwarded to Jaewon's cell. Beside them, matching printouts from a duplicate SIM card, registered under a name that did not exist, used to send Jaewon exactly the messages Grace needed him to receive. An unfamiliar contact claiming to be Erica, saying she'd found someone new, asking him not to look for her. "She built you 2 entirely different women," Sue said quietly. "The one lying to Erica. And the one lying to you." Jaewon stared at the false messages, at his own replies, tender and confused, sent to a stranger wearing Erica's name. 6 weeks of grief he never needed to carry. 6 weeks Erica spent believing the man she loved had simply stopped answering. "Does she know you kept this?" Jaewon asked. "She doesn't know I kept anything," Sue said. "For 31 years I kept everything. I was waiting to see which version of this family I actually worked for." Word moved quietly through the estate the way it always did. Not through announcements, but through who stopped looking away from whom. The housekeeper who used to avoid Erica's name in front of Grace now met Jaewon's eyes without flinching. The chef who'd been told to deny Erica's last visit to the kitchen door suddenly remembered it clearly when Jaewon asked again. Grace felt it before anyone said a word to her directly, the particular chill of a room deciding, one relationship at a time, that her version of events was no longer the only one available. Alone in her study that night, she poured a drink she didn't finish and looked at the framed photograph on her desk. A young man in an old-fashioned suit, smiling at a camera decades before Jaewon was born. She had not lost control of this family in 30 years. She was not ready to admit that losing it might this time be the right thing. So she moved up the timeline. If Jaewon was going to unravel 6 weeks of careful work, she would give the family council no time to consider anything except the engagement she had already promised the Song family. Announced, public, difficult to reverse in front of 2 families and half the city's old money. Jaewon told Erica everything 2 nights later, sitting on the unfinished floor of her workshop, surrounded by half-restored mahogany paneling that reminded her, achingly, of the mansion's 3rd floor. "My mother died when I was 9, he said. "Grace didn't just raise me after that. She decided very early that love was the reason people in this family got hurt. She lost someone once, a man outside the business before she married my uncle. A rival family had him killed to send my grandfather a message. She has spent 40 years making sure nothing she loves is ever that exposed again. That doesn't make it right, Erica said gently. No, but it makes sense. He looked at her, really looked. The way he hadn't let himself in 6 weeks of grief, he now understood was never his to grieve. I let her be right about love for a long time, because it never cost me anything I wanted to keep. Erica was quiet for a moment, then reached into her coat, the same coat from the driveway, mended now, and drew out the small yellowed envelope. There's something I found in your mother's house, she said. I don't think it was ever meant for Grace to find first. I think it might have been waiting for you. The engagement dinner arrived before Jaewon could stop it. The Song family seated at the head table, camera crews from 2 business papers waiting outside, Grace radiant and immovable at the center of it, lifting her glass to announce a union she had spent 6 weeks and 1 careful lie engineering. To the joining of 2 families, she began, and to the kind of partnership built on. The ballroom doors opened. Erica walked in wearing the same steady composure she'd worn on the gravel driveway 3 weeks earlier. Tobias Sue a half-step behind her, carrying a slim leather folder. Every head in the room turned. Grace's glass did not lower. Erica, she said pleasantly, dangerously, this is a private family dinner. I know, Erica said. I was dragged off this property the last time I came uninvited. I'm not leaving quietly this time. Before Erica opens that folder, subscribe now and predict in the comments, what do you think is inside? You're seconds away from finding out. Jaewon stood. Let her speak. Grace's composure held for exactly as long as it took Erica to open the folder. Inside were the call logs, the duplicate SIM registration, and on top of them, carefully unfolded, a letter written in handwriting Jaewon hadn't seen since he was 9 years old. My mother, he said, reading the first line aloud before his voice caught. The letter was addressed to whoever the reader loved honestly. In it, Jaewon's mother described a man she had loved before the marriage the family arranged for her. A man Grace had convinced her, gently and completely, to release for the good of everyone's safety. She had done as she was told. She had built a life inside that decision, a good life, a real one, but a private grief lived underneath all of it until the day she died, one she had never spoken aloud to her own son. If you are reading this, the letter closed, someone loved you enough to try to protect you from love itself. Do not let them succeed twice. The ballroom had gone completely silent. You did this to her, Jaewon said to Grace, his voice low. And when it worked, you tried to do it again. To me. To Erica. Grace's hand trembled once around her glass before she steadied it. I did it because it worked, she said, quieter now, the performance finally gone. Your mother lived. She was safe. I have buried the people I loved who weren't. She wasn't safe, Grace. Jaewon's eyes were wet. She was just quiet about it. The family council met 3 days later. Not in scandal but in something closer to grief. Grace did not lose her family. She lost her authority over it, stepped back at Jaewon's quiet insistence, from operational control of the estate and the marriages it used to arrange like business contracts. The Song family, for their part, withdrew the engagement without complaint. Sue Song later sent Erica a short, warm note thanking her, in her own words, for being braver than she had known how to be. Grace did not attend the announcement. She sat instead in the mansion's 3rd-floor study, the one Erica had spent months restoring, holding a photograph of a man whose name she hadn't spoken aloud in 40 years. Jaewon found her there that evening. He didn't offer forgiveness he didn't yet feel. He offered only what was true. I'm not finished being angry with you, he said. But I don't want you to disappear from this family, the way you made sure other people did. Grace looked up, older suddenly than her carefully kept composure had ever let her appear. She never asked to be saved, she said quietly. Did she? No, Jaewon said. She asked to be believed. I should have believed her from the start. He found Erica on the mansion's back terrace afterward, the same terrace visible from the driveway where guards had once dragged her across the gravel. She was watching the sunset settle gold over the lawn, one hand resting, unguarded now, over the small curve beneath her coat. I'm not going to ask you to marry me tonight, Jaewon said, stopping a respectful distance away. You'd say no, and you'd be right to. Erica almost smiled. I would. So I'm asking for something smaller. Time. The chance to show you who I am when nobody's rerouting the truth. He held out his hand, palm up, nothing demanded in it. An essay, not the final word, essay in how we do this. Together, if you'll let me be that. Erica studied his open hand for a long moment before she took it, her fingers steady around his. I don't need saving, Jaewon. I know, he said. I'm not offering that. I'm offering to stand next to somebody who never needed it in the first place. For the first time in 6 weeks, Erica let herself lean just slightly into someone else's shoulder. Not because she couldn't stand on her own, but because she finally believed she wouldn't have to prove it every single time. For months later, the mansion's third floor held a nursery instead of a locked study. Sunlight pouring through windows Erica had restored with her own 2 hands. Grace visited on Sundays now, carefully, humbly, one small rebuilt trust at a time. Tobias Sue still drove the family car, though these days he smiled more than he used to. Suasong came by twice that spring, once with a gift for the baby and once simply to sit on the terrace with Erica and admit, quietly, how relieved she'd been the night the engagement ended. The 2 women were not close friends yet, but they were no longer strangers standing on opposite sides of someone else's plan for their lives. Erica never did use that hospital scan as proof of anything again. She kept it instead, tucked inside the frame of her mother-in-law's letter. 2 women's truths finally resting side by side. Some families protect their people by controlling them. The strongest ones protect their people by finally telling them the truth. This has been another story from Empire City Romance Stories. Subscribe and like if Erica earned that ending. Now tell me honestly, would you have forgiven him this quickly or made him wait longer?